Hello, everyone. This is Michael from Time to Awaken. In front of you is another short video, hopefully. Yeah, it is. And yeah, I've been doing a series of short ones, just little things that I find here and there. Um, and this one's called the Mayflower Compact Connection. Okay. Today is March 28th, I believe. Um, Time is short. We're almost there. So, this is something that went around the internet a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was 5 years ago when I started actually searching all this stuff out and whatever. This was one of those things that was going around the internet like very hot, right? It was the end of the 400-year pact between the king and the colonists of the Mayflower, right? So they wrote this compact and they promised um, that the king would basically continue to own the land that they were going to take, right? That they owed the king for 400 years. That was the promise. And they signed this on November 11th, 1620. Okay. Now, depending upon where you look, that date could be different because, well, a different calendar went into effect. Whatever the case, November 11th of 1620. Okay. That was actually what was on their logs when they wrote this up. All right. So the thing here is that they made this compact to the king. Okay. They basically made themselves subservient to him. Okay. And although we became separate as a nation in 1776, there's always been a quote connection, right? We promised a 400-year, call it kind of like a loan, right? It's kind of like you take out a promissory note and you have to basically follow that promissory note to its end. And so most people don't even realize this exists. Um, I'm sure the King of England or whoever is fully knowledgeable about this. I'm sure there are others out there who are fully knowledgeable about this. Okay. Um, so Yeah, I mean, it's a major thing that needs to be thought about. All right, so the question is, so what, right? Well, this country, like Israel, and you've heard me speak of it before, I believe that the church, especially the church here in the United States, is the 10 tribes, that Israel, right? 10 tribes, and that um, there's a connection between us and Israel, and there is. I mean, even today, we support Israel in just about every way, right? But in general, the United States represents the 10 tribes that were taken into the Gentile nations. Okay, so in 1620, on November 11th, they came into this land. Okay, and just like Israel, when they came into the promised land, they were placed in a crossroads, right? Anybody that was going to go anywhere had to cross through um, their land to get other places. Okay, and God placed them there to what? To show them the way that things should be, right? To show them God, who God is. That was their purpose. And that was what we were supposed to do to all the nations, show them peace, right? To show them um, freedom, right? But like Israel, we have become corrupted. Okay. So if you follow my video and the article that's in this wiki, by the way, I'll say it right now because I didn't say it at the beginning. This wiki is available to anybody who wants it. You can email me and I will send it to you. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. If somebody wants to host this wiki, that would be great. And then anybody who wants to can anonymously go and find it and pick it up. That would be great. But anyway, it's there for anybody. All you have to do is ask. Okay. All right. So in the wiki that you're seeing right here, as well as in the video, you would see that May 11th, 2025, which I believe is going to be Rapture Day, with destruction of Israel on the 14th. Okay. It can also be May 11th. Okay. There's two calendars at play here. We have the quote Genesis, Enoch, Noah calendar. Take your pick. Okay. Which is a literal 365-day year, 364-day technically. Okay. Um, if you do the full count, and then we have a Jewish calendar that's in play, right? And one represents a civil type calendar, I believe, and the other one represents the feast year calendar. Okay, um, call it the biblical year calendar. Although I believe that the Jewish calendar is wrong today, but I'll leave that alone. That's not for this video. Okay. All right. That said, we're following it. Okay. And we know that tribulation day, according to the Bible, the tribulation day is second month, 17th day. It's in line, completely connects to the second Passover. Okay. And May 14th falls on that day. Okay. But the rapture day, I believe, will fall on May 11th, which I believe is actually 11/11, right? Just like the Jewish calendar should be reversed, so shall I believe so should this calendar be reversed, as in the day of Noah, right? That's what it says, as in the days of Noah. So, um, with that said, let me show you some interesting math, okay? This concept was making its rounds. Now they kind of blew it off, okay? It was a few years back. I believe it was back in 2020, 2021. Everybody was talking about this at that time, okay? It was going all around the internet. But then it's lost its direction because, well, nothing happened, right? Well, we got to understand a few things. Just as with Israel of old and New Israel today, okay, in 1948, we have to take God's law into effect. God's law in this case is Leviticus 19:23 through 25, and it talks about 3 years uncircumcised, the fourth year is to the Lord, and the fifth year is you partake of the first fruits. Okay. That being said, there's a 5 year um, precursor that has to take place. Okay, before they can start um, really taking from the land, or the people can be considered part of the land. Okay. Um, and so we have to take in that 5 years from the original date. Okay. According to Leviticus 19. All right. Then we go on. And in Genesis, God made a covenant with Abraham, right? And during his discourse, uh, Yahweh told Abraham that his people would go to live in a land that was not theirs, and they would essentially be slaves there. Okay, that's pretty much what happened to the Mayflower Compact, right? They were basically slaves to England at that time. Later, they became slaves to our own country. We are, okay, to our own government. Washington D.C. doesn't even exist on our as a voting state, right? Think about that. There's some background to that. All right. That being said, okay. So God made a covenant with Abraham, and during his discourse, Yahweh told Abraham that his people would go to a land and that was not theirs, and they would essentially be slaves there. Okay. He specifically said for 400 years. Okay, 400 years. Now, when you do some math here, and I've shown this in other videos, You have 400 years and you have 430 years. 400 years is for up to and for the Israelites, the 10 tribes, okay, when they were removed from the land. And then we have another 30 years beyond that, okay? Now, this changes up slightly in another article and video, but it's essentially the same principle, okay? So we have another 30 years. And that represents Judah at the end, right? 1,000-year reign and Satan coming back, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But we're mostly interested in this 400-year part, right? Because this is going to be for the two brides, right? They are going to be taken to heaven before trumpets takes place, right? The two raptures. All right. So we have discussed that elsewhere. Okay, we've discussed that. And for our purposes and the understanding of Israel in the Gentile nations, we're going to use the 400 years for the 10 tribes, which lines up perfectly. Okay? So, again, November 11th, 1620, or 11/11, 1620. Okay? And we've talked about 11/11 a lot on this channel, right? A lot. And it aligns with Noah's story, right? It connects perfectly with the first dove, the first dove that goes. Those numbers line up if you twist the calendar correctly. It lines up perfectly with all three time periods. Okay, first fruits departure, the main harvest of the church departure, and at the end, Jesus coming back. Okay, all right. So we have 11/11, 1620. Taking 1620 and adding the 5 years for the law, which we saw above, we end up with 1625. You can already see where this is going, right? 1625. And you take that 1625 and now you add the 400 years to that, we end up with a perfect rounded number of 2025, which is exactly where I believe we are at right now with what's about to happen. Okay? It's going to start. So if this is true, then this is another connection to this time period, right? May 11th can line up, but so does the 2025 date. And coincidental? I don't think so. I don't believe in coincidence. It just goes to show that what we all have to do is apply God's law to these times, and everything begins to fall in place. It's a learning curve because we have not followed the law all these years. And now, if we start doing that, we can actually see the truth of things. Unfortunately, the mainstream church won't do that, which is sad, but they're going to have to learn for themselves the hard way. All right. So I'm trying not to attack anyone here. I know that I often do that. Um, it's really hard not to say the truth. Okay. Just they don't want anything to do with it. They don't want to know, and that's their choice. We can't change their minds. And we are in the time of darkness. Again, a different video, but we are in the time of darkness, according to God. And we're going to come out of that into the light when Christ returns in the next 14 years. Okay. But he will be here. He will be here during this time period, and he will be doing things during this time. Okay. This 7 years of seals and 7 years of trumpets, they will play out, and there will be Christ involved with that. Okay. All right. Simply enough, that's it. Um, it's one of those things where, it's not technically biblical because we can't prove it 100% like we can in the Bible. But when you stop to think about how we are part of the 10 tribes of Israel, this makes a lot of sense, right? And how we became a nation and this whole compacting and how, the timing is just perfect. Okay. All right. that said, I'm going to let this go, and I hope and pray that those who read this uh, and kind of look at it like all the rest of this, um, look at it from a frame of mind is, hey, this is something that I can go and search out and see what else I can find. Okay, because that's what we're called to do. Okay, so with that, I'll say God bless. I wish the best for everyone that reads this. And I pray that more people would come. We do that constantly in our house. So again, God bless. Bye, everyone.